Hello guys, this is Paul McWhorter with TopTechBoy.com, and we're here today with episode number 22 in our incredible new tutorial series where you are going to learn artificial intelligence or you're going to die trying. What I'm going to need you to do is pour yourself a nice tall glass of iced coffee. That would be straight up black coffee poured over ice, no sugar, no sweeteners, none needed. And as you're pouring your coffee, as always, I want to give a shout out to you guys who are helping me out over at Patreon. It is your support and your encouragement that keeps this great content coming. You guys that are not helping out yet, take a look down in the description. There is a link over to my Patreon account. Think about hopping on over there and hooking a brother up. But enough of this shameless self-promotion. Let's talk about what I am going to teach you today. And what I'm going to teach you is I'm going to teach you how to use Mediapipe to create a face mesh, an animated face mesh of your face live real time in OpenCV. Now, you home gamers that have been taking this complete series of lessons, this should look very familiar to you because we've already found the hand landmarks and we found the full body pose landmarks, and finding this face mesh, these face landmarks is going to be very similar. So you should be getting pretty comfortable with this by now, but it is going to be another tool in our tool set, and we are going to learn how to do that today. So what I will need you to do is, first of all, I will need to get out of your way. I will need you to fire up your most excellent Visual Studio Code. We are going to come over here, and I am working in my main Python working folder. I am going to create a new folder, a new file, and it is going to be OpenCV I do believe we are on 39.py, and the .py is kind of important, and boom, fresh new Python program just waiting to be written. And as eager as we are, as chomping at the bit as we are to get this program written, we don't want to start completely from scratch. We want to snag that code that will fire up the webcam for us. And so what I will need you to do is come over to the most excellent www.toptechboy.com. I need you to come down here to this happy little search bar, and I need you to type in something like faster launch, and that will take you to this lesson, faster launch of webcam and smoother video in OpenCV. Right here, we've got it. You'll come down, you will click on these two little page icons, and boom, copied to clipboard. We got that code snagged. We're going to come over here and we are going to paste it. And now you will probably be on either camera 0 or camera 1. I have a bunch of cameras hooked up, and so I do believe that I am going to be on camera number 3, if I am not mistaken. And then you are going to be able, if you're using a Logitech camera or most webcams, you're going to be able to set the width and height of your frame, which are defined here with these two commands. But my particular camera that I'm using does not respond to those two commands, so I'm just going to have to grab the full frame and then resize it. So my frame, you probably don't need to do this if you're using most webcams, but I need to do it. I'm going to have to say frame is equal to cv2.resize. And what am I going to resize? I'm going to resize frame. And what am I going to resize them to? The tuple width, comma, height, like that. Okay. Now, just to make sure that the universe is in proper working order and we can copy and paste without introducing a problem, we're going to run this thing. Boom. I always like to start out with a little success. These little victories in life that make life sweet. So we have our base program to start with. Now, what are we going to need to do? Well, we are going to need to come up here, and if we come to the top, we have imported our old friend, Mr. CV2, and now we're going to what? Import our new friend, Mediapipe, and we don't want to keep typing Mediapipe, so we're going to import Mediapipe as MP. Okay, and that should be good. Now we're going to come down here after we get the camera set up, and we're going to start creating some Mediapipe objects. And the first thing that we are going to want to do is we are going to want to create our face mesh. Okay, this is going to be the object which we use to go out and get or determine or computate our face mesh. So we're going to call that object face mesh. And then what is that going to be equal to? That is going to be equal to mp.solutions.drawing utils. And yeah, what is that? No. I'm sorry. mp.solutions.face mesh. Okay. And then dot, wait for it, face mesh. Okay. And so again, we've run into this in all of the things that we've done on Mediapipe. For some reason, the method is down in .face mesh. And so it's a little bit confusing, these structures, but I'm showing you how to set it up. Now, in the future, all we're going to have to do is interact with this face mesh because everything else has been done. And then let's see, we're going to have to send it some parameters here. And the first, it asks if we are using a static image. No, it is not a static image, so we put false. And then what are the maximum number of faces that we would detect? Well, who knows? I'll say 3. Even though I'm not going to do 3, I'll just say 3. And then we've got to kind of have the tracking and finding parameters, which you just use as 0.5, 0.5 works as good as anything. If you guys want to play around with those, you can go in and research them. But just for what we're doing, 0.5, 0.5 works just great. So now we have our face mesh object created. Now we're also going to need to create our drawing object because we are going to want to plot those things. And we do that with mp draw, and that is going to be the object that we create. And we do that with mp.solutions.drawing utils, plural. And that's what I almost did in that earlier step. Okay. Let's see, we are later on going to want to put some text on our drawing. So let's go ahead and set up where we can put text. We can do a put text to CV2 to put text. So let's define our font is going to be equal to CV2.font and then underscore. I like the Hershey simplex, so I'll come on down to there. All right. And then font size, I'm going to make it kind of small. I'm going to make this font size 0.5, and then font color. How about we go font color? How about we go 0,255, 255, blue, green, red. That should make yellow if I'm thinking about this right, and there should be an equal sign in there like that. Okay, and guys, that CV2.putText is kind of a complicated command to put in, so I like to define my parameters up here, and that way it's much easier to get that put text in right when I can just put in these predefined parameters. And then we're going to need a font thickness, and I'll just make the font thickness 1. You can play around with those values if you want. Okay, I think we're ready to go. We're ready to get down here in our loop. And so the first thing we do is we go out and we grab a frame, we make the frame smaller. And now, as we know from earlier lessons, OpenCV works in the blue, green, red color space, and the rest of the world, including Mediapipe, works in red, green, blue. And so we need to convert frame to frame RGB, and that is going to be equal to CV2.CVT color, convert color. And what do we want to convert the color of? We want to convert frame. Okay, we want to convert frame, and we're going to do that with CV2.color, and then we're going to go BGR to RGB like that. Okay, so now I should have a frame that I could send to Mediapipe. Mediapipe should like that frame, okay. All right, so now that we have it, we're ready to what? We're ready to analyze it. So I am going to get some results, and so I'm going to bring that data structure back into something that I call results. We could have called it anything we wanted to, but I'm going to call it results. And that is going to be equal to face mesh. That's the object that we just created. And then what do I want to do? I want to process face, I want to process. And what do I want to process? I want to process frame what? RGB, like that. So I want to process that. Okay. Let's just run it. Now we're not, and well, I'll tell you what, we'll print results like that. We will print results, and that will allow us to just see, do we get anything back? Okay, do we get anything back? The tension builds. Okay, look at that. Now it's not doing anything, but you see it's just printing out that class, that data set that it returned. It's telling us, yes, it did get something back. So that's good. We did get a result back. All right, now, is there any data in that result? For us to see if there's data in that result, I think the best thing would be for us, instead of present results, let's see if we can crack into that data set a little bit. And because I have done the research, I can make it easy for you. The way that we crack into that, what we want to look at is results dot multi-face landmarks, and that should be that whole mesh. Now, I think if I'm thinking about this right, we should just see a huge gob of data coming in, and probably it's going to be a lot of X, Y's, and Z's for all of those different points. And so let's see if that actually got down into numbers. Yeah, look at that. Okay, now it's going by so fast you can't see it, but you can see that I have slowed things way down. And the reason I've slowed things way down is not that Mediapipe is slow, but I am printing 468 data points for each frame, and each one of those data points has got like a landmark, an X, a Y, and a Z. Okay, so you can see that it has all those landmarks, and it's got something like 400, count them, 468 different landmarks. So if you print it that way, it does take quite a while, and it does slow you down. So we see that we're getting data, so we don't really need to print that anymore. But what we do need to do is we need to go in and see if we can crack further into that data structure. So the first thing we did is that the data has the tag, dot multi-face landmarks, okay, dot multi-face landmarks. And so that's how we can actually access that data. And so the first thing we want to do is we only want to really start doing things if we got a result. And so what we're going to say, if results dot multi-face landmarks is not equal to none. All right. So we only want to go in and start working with the data if there is data. So if the data is none, we don't want to do this. If the data is not none, that means that there is something there. And then we want to come in and do this. Well, what do we want to do? We want to step through the faces. So now in this frame, you can see I only have one face, but the data structure returns an array, and inside that array is an array of landmarks for each face. So the first thing we need to do is we need to step through the faces. So I'm going to say, so for face singular landmarks, and so face landmarks would be one set of landmarks for one face. The face is singular, okay, and that's going to be in results dot multi-face landmarks. All right, so the results dot multi-face landmarks has the landmarks of each face. The landmarks of face 1, the landmarks of face 2, the landmarks of face 3. And so now face landmarks is the set of 468 points associated with one face. And this is really a lot like what we did with those hands and body posers. It's just this data structure has a lot more faces. Okay, so now I think what we can do is let's just see if we can plot those things. And we've got the really kind of pretty easy helper routine, which is MP-draw. Now, MP-draw is the object that we set up here. And if you called it something different up here, a different object, then you need to use your name that you created there. But then within that, what we want to do is we want to draw the method we want to do within that object, within that class, is to draw. We want to draw the landmarks. Now this is a method, so you have to type that exactly like that. We want to draw the landmarks on what? We want to draw it on frame. Okay, you know, we analyze frame RGB, but now we want to annotate our original frame. All right, and then what do we want to annotate it with? Face landmarks. And that is the variable that we did here. Does that make sense? I actually think there is some reasonable chance that this was going to do something. Okay, let's see. The tension builds. I hope I took those. Ooh. Well, it doesn't have a multi-face landmarks. Maxers. The old dyslexia makes it very hard for me to be a programmer. Hopefully you guys caught that. Now let's see. Boom! Look at that. Okay, you can see that I got a little, I have a little dot everywhere on my face. And you can see that as you move your face around, you can see that was probably kind of ugly the way I was moving my face there. I'm sorry, I was just trying to get an effect that I could show. Okay, so you see we got all those landmarks. Now we would really want to show a little bit more than what we were showing there. We would like to show a little bit more than what we were showing there. And so what I want to do is I want to show more like now a mesh. Okay, so we want to still do the face landmarks, but we also want to do the MP face mesh. Is that right? No, I got to go all the way back to the top. So I got to go. mp.solutions.facemesh, I think. mp.solutions.face _mesh. Okay, I need to glance over here and make sure that I did that right. Yeah, okay. So it's mp_solutions.facemesh, and then what I want to do is I want to add to it the face connections. Okay, so you can see these data structures in this class structure is really confusing, but once you see me do it, you sort of have a tool. Okay, this is how you do it. Now this is just going all the way back to Mediapipe, and these are all the methods and so forth that it defines going all the way back to Mediapipe. The face landmarks here is what I'm putting the data in as I step through all the faces. And so hopefully that makes sense. So if I'm thinking about this right, I should get a face mesh now. And I want to make sure that you can see what I just did, because that was behind my head for a second. Does that make sense? I think this might work. Let's try it. Okay, boom, look at that. Now that is pretty neat, because you can see that not only do you see the dots, but you can also see like my mouth moving a lot better, and you can see my eyebrows moving and so forth, and my face moving. And so this is getting a pretty detailed model of my face, and that is pretty cool. Okay, I'd like to have a little bit of control over the dot sizes and the colors and so forth. And so we can actually come up here, and I think that we can set some parameters that will allow us to have a little bit of control over that MP draw utility. And so what I want to do is I want to have a draw spec for the circle. I want to have a draw spec for the line. Now you can call these whatever you want, but these will just be the specs that tells Mediapipe how I want the little circles to look and how I want the line to look. And so what this is going to be is, let's do it for the circles. This is going to be equal to MP draw, which is the object that I created up there, the MP draw, and then dot drawing spec. Okay, and now I can specify some things. I'll say like thickness is equal to 3, like how thick do you want it, and then circle radius is equal to 2, let's say. And then what else can we do? I think I can set the color, and I can set the color to, for the circles, what color do you think we want those? How about blue? Color is equal to blue, which would be 255, 0, 0. So now that should say what the circle is going to be. Now this, you could call it anything you want, but then this variable we're going to have to put down in that drawing command later to then access this spec that we're setting up. It's same thing here, MP draw dot drawing spec, and this is going to what we will use for the line. And then here I'm going to make it thinner, so I'm going to say thickness equal to 1 and circle radius equal to 2, and then color is equal to, let's make it red, so that would be 0, 0, 255. All right, now I would think that if I use this as a line spec, it's not going to use this circle radius because there's no circles, but it's just sort of like if you will, a style that you're going to then use when you call this draw down here. So now let's see, how do I call this draw down here? What I want is after face connections, what I want is to use draw spec line, which I just set up, and then draw spec circle. Okay. Now this is going to be the line spec, and this is going to be the circle spec, not because I called this line and I called this circle, but after face connections, it is looking for the line specs and it's looking for the circle specs. If I put draw spec circle first, then it's going to put the circle specs on the line. Think about that, and I hope it makes sense. All right, so now let's try this and see if we get a little bit more control over things. Ooh, it doesn't like this thickness. Okay, that was in line 16. And thickness in the US is spelled with 2 S's, and most places in the world it's spelled with 2 S's. So we'll conform to the standard, and we will, in fact, use 2 S's. All right, so now let's run it again. Okay, look at that. Now you see what I did? I made the circles very small and I made the line bigger. And so what you can see now is that I get something a lot more, you know, focusing on the moving facial features and less on all those extraneous things. And also it looks like my eyes are, it's hard for me to look at the camera and the screen at the same time, but it looks like my eyes are outlined very well. And there's sort of like an inner circle around my eyes. But I do notice in this set of landmarks, it doesn't seem to be finding the iris. It just finds like the outside specification on the eyes, on the white part of the eye. Okay, now let's make sure that I have here the line was heavy and the circle was light. And let's make sure that that's how I'd set it up. The line. Okay, so I did in fact put those in backwards. Okay, because you see it made it made the line thick where I'd set the circle thick. So I put these in the wrong order, and kind of like that thing that I said would happen actually happened. It's looking for the circle spec first. So I better put the circle spec first, like that. And now this time it'll put the circle spec on the circle and it'll put the line spec on the line. So now let's try that. All right, there it goes. So the line is thin and the circle is heavy. and the circle is heavy and the line is thin. Okay, now if I want to change the line, I change the draw line spec. I'll make that heavy and I will make the circles small. And then I think that will be good. Now let's run it. Okay, so you see it's like I have kind of like a face animation. Now, what you also have to see is I could take this face animation and I could create, using an NP0 array, which we've done many times earlier, I could create a black empty frame, and then this image, this animation, instead of putting it on the original camera frame, I could go and I could put it on just a black screen. So I could start building like a virtual me, not an animation that is superimposed over the real me. And so let's also see, let's see if we can make the circle radius 0. I don't know if we could make those circles disappear by making the circle radius 0 on the circle spec, but let's look at that, or let's see if we can make the line thickness 0. Either one of these, I think we should be able to make those things disappear. If it's not thickness, it would be radius. Okay, that did not make those disappear. Thickness was 0. Let's see if we can make the radius 0. That will make it disappear. Okay, yeah. Now you can still barely see those little dots, but we've almost completely gotten rid of them. And let's see. That's about all we can do. We can't make them more unnoticeable than that, but at least we pretty much got them, got rid of them. And then we can just sort of more focus on the face animation. Now let's see, what it seems to do is it seems to have the mouth, the eyes, the eyebrows, and the face. And the eyes do sort of open and close as you move them. So that is pretty neat. Okay, so what we have done here is we've gotten our first look at these landmarks. But again, what is a little bit of the problem? All we have done is really gone out and we have passed a frame to someone else's class or someone else's function, and then it sends us some data structure back, and then we send that data structure to a different function, and then it does all this stuff. All we've done is sort of let one function analyze things and one function display things for us, but we haven't really gone in and done anything ourselves. And if we're going to do things ourselves, we need to go in and we need to build an array, a simple to interact array for the points. Now, one of the little problems that we have to deal with here is, remember when we were doing the pose tracking, it showed us this little wireframe person and showed us what the index was for each one of the different landmarks. That was really handy. Or we had this one for the hand. We could see the point, the index 0, the wrist, and the index 8, the tip of the index finger. That really helped. We don't have a picture like that for the face. And so like if I wanted to work with, let's say, the tip of the nose, I don't know out of these 468 data points, I don't know what the tip of the nose is. Sorry. Okay. Now got the voice back, and we will come back over here and let's see how we might go in and start trying to figure out which data point is which. Well, I think what we want to do is we want to come over here and we want to, I think what we want to do is we now, when we're down here, and let me, this face landmarks data structure, this face landmark data structure is all the landmarks for one face. So now what I want to do is I want to step through those face landmarks, okay? And so we will come here, and now I want to step through those face landmarks. So I'm going to say for LM for landmark, LM in what? Face landmarks. So I'm going to step through those landmarks one at a time if I am thinking about this right. Okay. And then what I want to do is I got to give it kind of an index, okay? And what we can see is the tag on the data. The tag on the data is the tag landmark. So I want to step through LM. That would be a singular landmark, and face landmarks, all the landmarks, but I got to give it this tag here. And so that would be dot landmark. And I hope as you see me do this, you see, I had to figure this out, but I hope what you see is how you can look at some data structure like this and begin to bust into it, that we're having to give it this tag, and now we will have this. And then you can see that as we get down in here, we're then going to have to give it like the X and Y tag in a minute. But now I'm just going out and grabbing what would be like the X, Y, and Z, if that makes sense. But now what I will want to do is I will want to actually put some text. So I want to myself put some text on each one of those little things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say CV2. What do I want to put? I want to put it the index. I want to put its index at its position. I want to put its index at its position. And that way, if I put its index at its position, I could then myself generate something like this. So I would know what is the tip of the nose or what is the edge of the eye for this more complicated data structure. Does that make sense? So what I want to do here is at each one of those landmarks, I want to do a CV2. And then what do I want to do? I want to do a put text. Now, what do I want to put as a text? The index. Now, as I'm stepping through here, I don't have the index. So I need to create a counter. And the counter is going to start, let me call it like index, like INDX. Now, you don't want to call it index because a lot of times index might be one of those words that's a special word. So I'm just going to call it INDX is equal to 0. Because remember, in an array, the first element is the 0 array. And then what do I want to put? I want to put text. I want to put text. Where do I want to put it? I want to put it on the frame. Okay. And then what text do I want to put? I want to put CNT or INDX, that index, that counter. Now, what's the problem? INDX is an integer and put text wants a string. So I've got to take the string value of that number index. And then I will be putting a string, and OpenCV should be happy. And now where do I want to put it? Well, I want to put it at the X and Y value. Well, what would the X and Y value be? Well, it would be at the point, simplistically, you could think of it at the point lm.x, lm.y, right? Because if you look here, this dot landmark gets us to here, to landmark, and now I've got to tell it the dot x and I've got to tell it the dot y to get those things, right? Now, what is the problem? The x and y are normalized from 0 to 1. And what OpenCV wants is it wants the actual pixel location. So I need to take the 0 to 1 in X and I need to multiply by what? I need to multiply it by the width of the frame. Good thing is we define that at the top of the program. So we just multiply by width, and the LMY we multiply by height, like that. Now what is the problem? OpenCV always wants integers. It wants an XY coordinate in pixels in integers, not, fractional integers. And so for this to work, we better convert this to an int. So I'm going to convert the first number, the X value, to an int, and then I'm going to convert the second, the Y, to an int, and close it. So now I have a tuple, an XY pair, and both of them are ints, and both of them are normalized first to the width and the second to the height. We've done this so many times, this really should make sense to you. Okay, now this is where all the good stuff happens. Because I was good to set up parameters up at the top, I don't have to worry about them now. I know I set up font, I know I set up font size, and I know I set up font color, and I know I set up font thickness. At least I sure hope I did. Okay, it seems to recognize all those, so that looks good. Now, if I am thinking about this right, and I sure hope I am, it is now, instead of going to put circles on my face, it is going to put the index number of each of those landmarks on my face. And so let's see what happens. Let's run this. And, oh, CV2, I am show. That usually means it was the line before. Okay, somewhere I probably didn't close a parenthesis. So this opens the put text. Then I have frame, string, open, close, open, open, close, open, close. I didn't close the tuple here. Do you see that? Okay. This closes the int, but I didn't close this tuple. So I need to close that. Now it's an XY coordinate. Now let's try and see if this will work. Okay, look at that. Oh, why do I have all O's? Someone tell me. Leave, if you're doing this live in the chat, why did it put an O everywhere? What did we forget to do? We set index to 0, but what did we not do? We didn't increment our index. So indx is equal to indx plus 1. So now let's try it. Boom, look at that. Wow, that's kind of a big mess, isn't it? That's a big mess. I wonder if I could make the font any smaller. I wonder if I could make the font smaller. What did we set the font size to? 0.5. Let's put it at 0.2. And see if hopefully I can still see it, but hopefully we can sort of start seeing where some of those numbers are. Okay, yeah, I think those numbers are readable now. Okay, I think those numbers are readable now. And so if you get if you get close to your camera, you should be able to begin to see what the index of different key parts of your face are. And so what we have done here is we have in effect created our very own live version of these mapping of the indexes to the face. Okay, let's come back over here. Okay, guys. This has been what I've shown you now is I've shown you how to go out and get the data. All right, so you now have access to all the landmarks and you have access to their X and Y coordinates. So this is your homework. Your homework for next week is to take that last program that we did. That would be the homework solution to lesson number 21. Man, I hope I numbered these things right. Let's go back to toptechboy.com. And I just want to see, close you aggravating thing. Okay. Yeah, all right. Ooh, I forgot to increment the lesson. This is lesson number 23. Sorry, I lied. I'll fix that. I'll fix that at least in the title. But okay, this is lesson number 23. In lesson number 22, what we did was we created a program that has classes. It has a class for finding the face, like, you know, just finding and boxing the face. It has a class for the whole body pose, and it has a class for hands, including the right hand and left-handedness. Now, what I want you guys to do is to take this program, and then what I want you to do is I want you to add to it. I want you to add to this program another class, and that class returns a nice clean data structure for those face landmarks, okay, for those face landmarks. And then what I want you to do is in the main program, down here to work with those face landmarks where you can kind of start zeroing in and better understanding, like what are the landmarks associated with your eye, or what are the landmarks associated with your nose, or what are the landmarks associated with your mouth. Give you a hint, when you're down in the main program, you don't want to just print out all the landmarks. You don't want to put all the labels on, because then it starts getting too hard. So I want you to see if you can start figuring out what are the landmarks around the eyes, mouth, eyebrows, things like that. So you sort of are able to begin to understand what the landmarks are associated with various parts of your face. Does that make sense? Okay, guys, man, I feel terrible about calling this lesson number 22 when it was really lesson number 23, but I don't want to go back and make the whole video again, so I will just change it in the video title on YouTube. Okay, guys, I hope you're having as much fun taking these lessons as I am making the lessons. I am really enjoying this. We've been doing kind of some hard work here to really understand the Mediapipe data structures, but I hope you're having a little bit of fun along the way. And what we're going to be doing next is, well, the next lesson will be the homework solution. At that point, we'll have all the classes that we need to fully and easily interact with Mediapipe. And then the direction that I am thinking about going is seeing if we can kind of start doing some detection of gestures, okay, so that we could create hand gestures and Mediapipe would understand what we are indicating or what we want based on hand gestures. Then you could go all types of different places, because Python, man, you can do anything in Python. And so it's sort of like understand what your hands are doing and then have Python go out and do cool things based on what your hands are doing. And so that's kind of the direction that I see things going. Man, I don't know why I've got kind of lewd ads there showing up there. Google sometimes feeds some ads that I consider tad bit inappropriate. But anyway, enough of that. So guys, if you enjoyed the lesson, make sure to give me a thumbs up. If you've not subscribed to the channel already, make sure that you subscribed. And as you do, be sure to ring the bell so you'll get notifications when my new lessons are coming out. And if you haven't already, share this with a friend. Share this on your social media, because the world needs more people doing engineering and fewer people sitting around watching silly cat videos. Paul McWhorter with TopTechBoy.com. I will talk to you guys later.